Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. I hope you're having a wonderful day today, and welcome back to r/entitled people, where you'll hear stories about people who think they're better than everybody else and that they can do no wrong. Like this person right here, who writes a note to his neighbor saying, "Your landscaping is horrible. There's a whole lot of laziness going on here. You are dragging the value of our real estate down. If this is not cleaned up in a week, I'm gonna call code enforcement. Your neighbor." Guys, first of all, let's address that he used the word laziness. Is that even a real word? Second of all, if I was OP, I would up my landscaping game and probably do something like this. And third, look at the way he writes his letter E, guys. It looks like a handwritten E that's mixed with the letter F. Listen guys, that letter E is terrifying. Look at it. Who taught you how to write that capital E like that, sir? One more? Okay. Of course I gotta show you guys a picture of a person who is super entitled that they have to park like this. Come on. My friends, if you think those two are entitled, you gotta stay for today's stories. The first story, a Karen invites everybody to her birthday party and expects to be spoiled. The second story, an entitled man hates the fact that his server has a funny sense of humor, and we'll finish up with a woman who complains about an ambulance. My friends, buckle up because you're about to get a dose of entitlement. I do hope you guys enjoy the stories today and hit that subscribe button for future tales. Let's dive in. So, I used to know this woman who I'll call Karen. Karen was a snob. She thought she was better than everybody else because her husband was a CEO and made a lot of money, and she did not work at all. So one day, I got invited to her birthday party. It was at a fancy restaurant and had a special menu for the group. The menu was listed with prices and I was floored at how expensive it was. For example, a chicken dish was $60, a hamburger was $70, and they wanted us to bring cash. I googled the restaurant to see the real menu and noted the same dishes were showing way less. I messaged Karen to ask if the numbers were a mistake. I used the hamburger as an example, mentioning that her menu wanted $70 and the regular menu was $30. So Karen's reply was that they increased the amounts so everybody would be paying for her birthday meal, which consisted of lobster, shrimp, and filet mignon. I had intended on buying her a gift, not paying for her meal. And even if I did, I wasn't paying that much. There were 15 people invited, and together the group would have paid way more than what it cost. I replied and asked if we could opt out of the group menu and order up the regular menu instead. I told her I had a gift packed out for her and couldn't afford to pay for her meal as well. And she flipped. She lost it on me. Karen says it's her birthday party, so I should be bringing a gift and bringing cash for her meal. She called me cheap, a bad friend, and then officially uninvited me from her birthday party. She said if I showed up, she would make a scene and kick me out. I said okay, and that was the last time I talked to her. So here's the kicker. So a mutual friend told me that the day of the party, only 4 people showed up. She was pissed because everybody had RSVP'd that they'd be coming and all canceled last minute. You know why they canceled? Because they didn't want to pitch in for Karen's meal. They probably did the same thing OP did, Googled the menu, and noticed that everything was half price. Let me get this straight. She wanted 15 people to pay almost $30 to $40 extra to cover her meal. I really want to know what kind of restaurant this is, where the lobster, shrimp, and filet mignon, and maybe a few drinks add up to $600. That is absolutely insane, guys. So, some background. When I first started serving, I figured that the best way for me to approach this was with a sense of humor. The way I saw it, most people were out there to have a decent meal and enjoy it. And because I have an odd sense of humor, this meant that I came up with some pretty weird but ultimately harmless jokes. For example, if anybody orders coffee, I would bring them their scalded bean juice and bovine drippings. When they paid, I would tell them we accepted cash, card, or your immortal soul. And when they used the machine, I would say, just make sure that number is correct. If it isn't, then the automatic computing chip has critically failed. Because I've been doing it for a while, I kept the delivery easy, so people knew I was joking, and I had a bunch of material. Some didn't really pay attention, especially when paying, so it went over their heads. Few didn't really care one way or another, but most times I'd get a laugh. Because of this, I rarely got complaints. Some people did not like my sense of humor, and I understood that, but at best, they just wouldn't tip. Except for this one entitled customer. So, this man was seated at my table with his wife and 2 kids. One kid looked a little sad when I first approached their table, so I thought that it would be a perfect opportunity. When I brought them their drinks, I would make sure to be as humorous as I could. I said, "Here's the cow juice, both from a white cow and a brown one. I'm sorry for the delay. We had an utter disaster milking them. Kid 1 and Kid 2 giggle. I then went on and said, and the caustic aqua to burn your dried leaves, as well as some dismembered citrus. The mom looks confused for a moment, and then I see the oh moment and a smile. I then said, lastly, your dihydrogen monoxide, sir, in its solid and liquid forms. The dad, however, looks as sour as the lemon slices. He says, excuse me, what did you say this was? I told him, why, it's the essence of life itself, sir, and something that came out of the dinosaurs years ago, just filtered super well. Cue more giggles from the kids and the mom, but the dad looked really annoyed. Thankfully, the mom stopped him from doing anything by saying, honey, it's water. You know, H2O. After that, the meal went relatively quiet. I got the food orders, brought them when it came out, hot and fresh, no clever or joking lines here. I checked on them twice to make sure the food was good, even got to chatting with the wife and the kids for a bit. Dad was silent the whole time, only really nodding when I asked if his food was good, or holding out his glass for more water. Now, I didn't mind him too much though, because I thought that was the end of it. I brought them the bill with the usual joke of cash, card, or firstborn baby, up at the front whenever you're ready. And the mom even joked back saying, I guess one kid's doing the dishes. Next time I stopped by the table, the dad was up front paying, while the kids drew on the kids' menus and the mom watched them. The mom thanked me for my great attitude, handing me a $7 tip for cheering up her kids. So it turns out the family dog had a vet visit and the kids were worried. I just told her that I was more than happy to help her take her mind off of it, and I hope they come back soon. That should have been the end of it, except that it wasn't. Because while the mom was thanking me, it turns out that the dad was complaining to the shift manager, saying stuff like, OP is obnoxious, makes stuff up, and won't stop talking. I just want to get my meal, not have to deal with a brat annoying my family. She even suggested that I pay with my kids. So yeah, the general gist of his complaint was that he just wanted a server who was bland, made no jokes, handed them their food, and walked away. What made him a real entitled person was that he demanded a discount and a free dessert for his kids for his trouble. This being the food service industry where the customer is king, my manager caved like wet tissue paper and personally brought the dessert. This being a place I've worked at for years, I had a good relationship with my manager. We both just chatted about how much of a dick this guy was after he was gone. Now, if this story ends here, there would be no satisfaction for you, so let me tell you what I did next. So fast forward to about a month later. I'm working the afternoon shift on a Wednesday, and it's dead period. And there's about a couple of hours at the start of my shift where I'm the only person in front of the house, and my manager's in the back counting the last shift's cash. I'm basically alone, save for the cook who is not allowed at the front. When the dad and his family come in, I can't immediately seat them because I'm taking food out. The mom and kids recognized me and were excited to see me, while behind them the dad stares at me like I'm a crap stain on a napkin. I can tell he remembers me, and more importantly, I remember him and his complaint. His mistake is going to the washroom while I sat his family. It was the start of my shift, so I was still in a really good mood. I asked how they were, and Kid 1 said the dog was doing much better. And Kid 2 asked if he could have some brown udder juice. Mom gets herself a peppermint tea and a coffee for Dad. As I sat them, I told them that I was going to do something different today. I told the kids I wasn't mad at them, I promise. Mom was confused, but I just smiled and winked before I left to get their drinks. By the time I had their drinks, the dad was there and waiting. Perfect. I slowed my pace from my usual speed into a slow march. The kids look up at me, clearly expecting. The dad huffs, we're not ready to order yet. Me, completely emotionless, said, very well, sir. Here is your coffee, tea, peppermint, milk, chocolate, juice, orange, 3 waters, 1 water, no ice, 4 creamers, sugars in the caddy on your wife's right. Is there anything else you require of me? The dad says no. The kids and mom were confused. I had done a total 180 from a peppy jokester to a monotonous robot, and I was only gone for a couple of minutes. But I just turned that 90 degrees to the right and went to another table, where I dropped the act and went back to being me. This went on for a little while, as Dad wasn't ready to order the next 2 times I stopped, even though his kids already knew what they wanted. I was neutral every time I stopped by their table, then went right back to being fun around the other 2. I chatted with one regular about some games he was playing, and an older couple about their kids, but with the dad's table, nada. Mom asked me to put the order for appetizers, and I complied. Funnily enough, it was the same appetizer the older couple had, so they could hear me saying to them, 6 hush puppies to a good home in warm stomach acids, only to bring theirs and say, hush puppy, 6. Naturally, by the time I stopped at the dad's table with the appetizer, nobody was happy. The kids wanted to hear jokes from me to them, not overheard. Even the dad was annoyed because I was way nicer and warmer to the other tables. But the mom asked me the question that I was waiting for. She said, "OP, how come you're joking with everybody else but us? Last time we got the best service we've ever had in a chain diner." Dad says, "Get me your manager now. I refuse to be ignored when I'm just here to eat with my family." I in fact made no move to get my manager, but carefully schooled my expression to something neutral and kept my tone as calm as can be and said, "But sir, last time you insisted to my manager while I was paying that I be factual, concise, and non-intrusive. As I recall, you found my behavior annoying to you and your family." Instantly, mom and the kids looked right at him. He immediately went red. He says, "That's not what I said. I said the service was great." I told him, "Actually, sir, allow me to remind you that you insisted that I not make stuff up. You complained that I wouldn't stop talking. You found my humor offensive, particularly the part where you claimed that I suggest you pay with your kids. And my manager offered you a 25% off as well as free dessert as compensation." The mom was speechless and said, "What? My husband said you offered it because you felt bad about our dog." I told her while I would have liked to, I did not, so my behavior today is in alignment with his previous complaint. At this point, the kids were upset and the dad was furious. She asked me to give them a couple of minutes with their order, and I just nodded and left. I did see the mom and dad leave the restaurant for a bit, and mom returned after a bit alone. As it turns out, the dad was a serial complainer to try to get discounts and free food from restaurants, and mom was very upset that not only had he pulled it again, but on their new favorite server. So he was off to eat alone at the Golden Arches, and I was back to joking and cheering the kids up. I apologized for my behavior, and the meal went on like normal. Personally, I think the guy was just mad that he did not know that dihydrogen monoxide is water. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I personally love cheery and happy servers with a little bit of humor. If it's a chain restaurant, bring that on 100%. Maybe the dad was upset that OP made him look stupid and he picked on that. Not a lot of people know what dihydrogen monoxide is. I remember a long time ago where a 14-year-old petitioned to have dihydrogen monoxide banned, saying it can cause severe burns, corrode metals, and even cause severe bloating and excessive urination. And if you're dependent on it, you will die from withdrawal. He made it sound super serious, and thousands of people actually signed the petition to have water banned. It was absolutely brilliant, but enough of that, guys. So, as a supervisor, I get a lot of complaints forwarded to me, since I tend to squash them, or I just have thicker skin than the rest. I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt, since they feel wronged in some way to get to this point, but could be misinformed of the nature of our service. If they are misinformed, I try my best to enlighten them before I escalate to the safety department, or customer relations, etc. It's a waste of our time, and ultimately an embarrassment to the person complaining if I need to explain to them that they are wrong. So here's a dialogue that I had with one such person. So the random caller, who's probably a Karen and probably pulled the phone number from the side of our ambulance, said, "Your ambulance is in traffic and almost caused me to get into an accident." I told her, "Okay ma'am, so you're not involved in an accident?" She says, "No, but you people shouldn't be using your lights and sirens to get traffic out of your way. I've seen it done too often and I feel like you guys are using those lights way too much." I told her, "I'm sorry about that. Which unit was it?" And she says 301. I told her I'll have somebody look into this, but from what I can see here, I assure you that nothing's being done unlawfully, and those sirens were definitely on for a reason. She says, "Yes, there is. You're not allowed to use your lights and sirens to get through traffic." I asked her, "Why do you say that, ma'am?" And she responded, "I saw both of the drivers in the front. You don't have a patient in the ambulance, so you can't use your sirens and lights." Now, I'm a bit puzzled by this woman's thought process at this point, and I'm not 100% sure I heard her correctly. I repeated, "So, you say they're in the front of the ambulance using lights and sirens, correct?" And she says, "Yes. Ma'am, you do understand that we need to get to the patients before we transport them, correct?" "Yeah, I work for the fire department, so I know. I live in a major city. Our fire department has a couple of divisions, so it could be suppression, fire, etc." And I asked, what division do you work for?" And there was silence. I then told her, "Okay ma'am, I thank you for your concern. Since you work for the fire department, you know that we're permitted to use our lights and sirens to get through traffic to a patient's location as soon as possible to render care." She says, "No, you're not. I'm gonna report you and those two drivers, and you are gonna get fired." I told her if you feel that it's necessary, please do so. I will forward your complaint to our safety team and they will look into this for you. Have a good day. Suffice to say, I documented the complaint and had a laugh with a few coworkers. Imagine being so entitled and feel so important that an ambulance going to respond to an emergency pisses you off to the point where you have to call and report them. I'm sorry that you almost got into an accident, but you didn't, ma'am. There's no need to have those 2 drivers fired and threaten to have OP's job as well. Some people just have way too much time on their hands. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our / entitled people. Guys, if you enjoyed the episode today, do hit that thumbs up. And if you missed yesterday's episode of r / entitled people, a Karen calls the cops because OP refuses to cut her grass. Imagine that. Check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you. I really do.